Hello and welcome to my first video in the series. In this video I'm going to tell you why you might want to have an arms warrior in your raid or your dungeon setup, as well as what the class excels at and what the class struggles with, or with other words, what it's like to play an arms warrior. Alright, so why you want to bring an arms warrior to your raid or your dungeon group? So the arms warrior is one of the best classes when it comes to overall damage in a dungeon or raid environment, due to its insane burst potential and its ability to dish out insane amounts of damage on every trash pull when he uses his sweeping strikes ability that is only on a 30 seconds cooldown. In addition to that, the warrior brings a strong debuff, DPS buffs to melee classes and hunter with his battle shout ability and his unique arms debuff, like blood frenzy and battle shot. The arms warrior can as well speed up a dungeon run just by enabling bigger pools with his strong tools to reduce the damage that mobs can inflict to the tank, like Thunderclap and Demoralizing Shout here, and this one. If spec'd into it, the warrior can gain access to a strong AoE slow, which could even enable a caster cleave kiting methods in dungeons, even without the mage. Okay, let's continue with your main utility tools that everyone knows you for and wants you to know how and when to use them. So, first we have Thunderclap. Thunderclap is available to every to the warrior class in general. Every spec could use this ability, but the arms warrior is the preferred one in this case. So why is the arms warrior the preferred one to use Thunderclap on a boss? That's because Thunderclap can only be cast in battle stance or defensive stance, and the Fury warrior, which is the other person who could cast it on the boss, is will lose a lot of damage when he goes into battle stance, because the Fury warrior is more dependent on the extra 5% crit that the Berserker stance would give you, and the Fury warrior is not capitalizing that much on overpower procs, which you would which ability you can only use in battle stance. So yeah, that's the two reasons why the arms warrior is better than the Fury warrior. Why is the arms warrior better for Thunderclap than the protection warrior? Is because some protection warriors do not spec this, or do not want to spec the improved version. And in addition to that, it's not a good single target threat ability to press for the tank. In AoE, this is the complete opposite. Here, the protection warrior will use Thunderclap on cooldown, so you don't need to use it in packs if your main tank is or if your tank is a warrior. Yeah, what else can I say about Thunderclap? I think not much, but we can continue with the Demoralizing Shout. So Demoralizing Shout is again very bad threat for the tank, and in addition to that, the tank will most likely not spec this one. Again, in a AoE scenario, the warrior tank might want to use this. You can ask him if he wants to build up threat with Demoralizing Shout or not. If he wants to do that, you can let him shout. If he doesn't want to do that, you can help him out by using this yourself. So, but I would actually say that for Demoralizing Shout, a Fury Warrior would be preferred instead of the Arms Warrior, because you can cast it in Berserker stance just fine, and it will cost you 10 rage and a global cooldown. So why is this important? It's important because your Fury Warrior does only use 2 global cooldowns in their rotation. besides for an execute, of course. But in the most of the fight, he will use only Bloodthirst, which would be my Mortal Strike right now, but he would be spec'd into Bloodthirst, and he would use Whirlwind besides that. So that's 2 globals that he can just use whenever he wants, depending on his rage, of course. And so he has a lot of empty globals that he could use to cast Demoralizing Shout, and it's cost 10 rage. The Fury Warrior in general most of the time will generate more rage than the Arms Warrior, so this ability will hurt him almost will almost not hurt his DPS. The Arms Warrior uses Slam quite regularly every time his swing timer goes to 0, so he needs to time this, and needing to cast Demoralizing Shout can really fuck up the Arms Warrior rotation in an unnecessary way, because your Fury Warrior could just have done this job. Alright, so these are your tools to decrease the damage that your party or your your tank is taking. And yeah, Thunderclap will reduce the attack speed of the enemy by 20%. The most enemies are dealing their damage with auto attacks, that is. So this will just be a DPS decrease for this enemy by 20% if he only uses auto attacks, which many bosses and enemies do. And the Demo Shout ability will decrease the DPS output of an enemy by between 15 and 30%, depending on the enemy and Curse of Recklessness, if it's backed or not, but it can go up to 30%, just this ability. So you got your 20% here and your 30% here. So this sounds at first glance very, very good, but you have to keep in mind that most tanks that are tanking your bosses are either warriors or druids. Warriors and druids generate rage when they get hit. And if your tank is good geared, or your raid is good geared in general, what will happen is your tank will not generate enough rage to keep up with the good geared DPS, with the threat of the good geared DPS players, and this can cause frustration and even wipes. So you always gotta be aware if you really want to use these strong debuffs on the boss, if you really want to use both or only want to use one. So let's continue with the tools the warrior has to enhance the DPS of your raid or his group, which would be, in very rare cases, Thunder Armor. This debuff stacks up an armor penetration, like it reduces the armor of the target stacking up by 5, up to 5. But most of the time you have a rogue using exposed armor or improved exposed armor, which would be better. If you have a warrior tank, they will press Devastate once in a while. Like every once in a while they will press Devastate. Devastate you can find down here. So this will apply 1 stack of Thunder Armor. And yeah, you can help the tank building up this debuff at the start of the fight, but after that you will not need to continue using it. Yeah, if you have no rogue and no warrior tank, you can or you should use this ability and keep it up. This will be very annoying and will hurt your DPS a lot, but it will increase the DPS of your group or your raid a lot, depending on the melees, how geared the melees are, and how good the melees can play, of course. So, next thing the warrior has to increase the DPS of his group, which is his strongest tool, considering if you are only looking at the DPS of the warrior's group, and there are many melees in it, this is the strongest tool. It's Battle Shout, actually. It increases the attack power by 382. Yeah, that's right, that's almost 400 attack power if we look at this trinket, which everyone uses and which is very good. This will increase the attack power only by 278, so that's 100 attack power more with a 100% uptime. So never ever let your battle shout run out. You gotta go you got to get a weak aura for that, or anything that that suits you, that you can track if the battle shout is active or not, because it's an intense DPS decrease if it's not active. So why you want to have the Fury or the Arms cast battle shout? Because first, it's not good threat, and second, the tank is most likely not or almost never spec'd into this talent, which will increase the value of this talent by 25%. Alright, the last tool, and the easiest to talk about, I guess, is Blood Frenzy. This is a talent deep in the arms tree, so we don't need to talk about if the tank should do it or the Fury could do it, because they simply can't. And this will increase the melee damage or the physical damage taken by the from the enemy by 4% every time the warrior crits or every time the warrior uses rend. So when it bleeds, or when like deep wounds or rend is active on the target, which should be like all the time. So that are your main utility tools, and how do you want to use them? Maybe I need to say that Battle Shout will not buff the damage of your hunter, but the damage of the pet from your hunter by a lot. So, okay, let's talk about the unique traits of the warrior class. The warrior class has a lot of unique traits that can be seen both as advantages or disadvantages. So it's a class of extremes. So I think you rather love it or you rather hate the class or playing the class. This comes due to the fact that the warrior is very gear dependent, like he scales the best on crit, hit, and expertise. Okay, tanks scale better on expertise than a warrior DPS would, but out of the DPS, the warrior scales the best with expertise and hit and crit. So therefore he can improve its damage by a lot through buffs and gear. But this also means that if he doesn't get the gear or he doesn't get the buffs, he will suffer more from that than other classes. The other thing that is unique for the warrior is his threat. The warrior DPS creates more threat than all the other DPS specs, and in addition to that, he has no way to wipe his threat, like feign death, vanish, and he also has no tricks, or tricks is not in TBC, but yeah, misdirection from the hunter. He doesn't have anything like this. So your DPS is not only calculated by your ability, your gear, and your buffs, but also on the ability of your tank gets factored into that, because if he is not a good tank and he can't produce a lot of red, especially in AoE, you will not be able to play at your full potential, and this can be frustrating. And the healer counts into this as well, because you will pull threat every now and then, and if the healer is not on his toes, especially in heroics, you will die instantly. Yeah, the tank can do a lot to save you. He can mocking blow, he can AoE taunt, he can tell you you go AoE taunt, you can pull recklessness. He can taunt, obviously. He can do disarms, he can throw out stuns to save you. But most tanks will only know how to taunt an enemy that was pulled off of them, and they only going to know that it was pulled off of them after like 2 seconds, and that's too late in heroics. In normals, pulling aggro can be a great method to increase your DPS. You can go up to 150% bonus DPS if you pull threat. This can increase your clear time of dungeons by a lot. But in heroics, this is simply not possible, and in raids, of course, it's not possible either. So the warrior excels when his team plays well, and team play can always feel rather very rewarding or very punishing if it doesn't work. So you gotta keep that in mind. Alright, so the last thing I want to touch about when it comes to specialties of warrior is that it has a very unique rotation. Whether you can't call it rotation really, you cannot even call it priority list. It's more like a combo system or something like this. I still need to find a proper explanation for that, but basically what you do as a arms warrior or a two-handed warrior is you clump up your abilities right after your auto attack was cast, and yeah, so you basically what you do is you wait for your string timer to happen. I'm going to show you here. This is my string timer. This shows when the next melee attack is will come through. By the way, you can't play warrior properly without this, so you should get it. And every time it's about here, you press slam, and after slam, you press like mortal strike, you press whirlwind, or you press rend, or you press hamstring. Here I can demonstrate this real quick in action. Let's get some of this good stuff on. So you would pull your cities, and then the slam comes through, pop, pop, you raid, pop, 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 and again, hamstring would come next. So this is a very explosive playstyle, I like to say. Many people refer to that as clunky. I think I like clunky, I don't know. So if you have no problem with playing a clunky class, then I think warrior will be a good choice for you.